man who's back here on the show. I think this might be appearance this is his third appearance, and remarkably, he remembers every single question of every single sequence in the first two appearances.
That is absolutely not true.
Sean McVay of the Los Angeles Rams.
I'm glad that joke never gets old, right?
Well, it's one of the most incredible videos we've seen.
Artists actually edited that one, so they said, "Okay, wait, what was that?" Then we played it, made it look like that, right?
So even from your playing days from Miami, Ohio, you remember that sort of stuff?
Well,
like you remember going across.
but if you asked me
or...
to say how did you get here, I wouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
It's football.
Right.
My dad always gives me a hard time. He says, it would be helpful if you knew something other than something about things other than football. I said, nah, I don't think I have enough room in my brain for that.
That's worked out for you. I mean, it's worked out for you. Just stuffing all that football in there.
It's worked out, except for the last game.
Oh gosh, how do you really think that way? Do you really think about that?
No, certainly. I think when you look back at the season and really the first couple years here, couldn't be more thankful and really excited about attacking our third season in 19. So obviously didn't end the way that you wanted to, but no, you have such an appreciation for our players, our coaches, and really everybody that was so influential in helping the season be as special as it was. And the way that it ended obviously isn't ideal, but it certainly doesn't put a damper on the appreciation for the entirety of the journey.
Well, I know we were just showing for the radio audience. You were just showing the stadium that's just up the road from here, and it's going up, and it's significant. And what you talk about in terms of special last year, it's not just wins and losses. I haven't had really much of a conversation about this with you. You did call in during the season for a few minutes while you were amidst, obviously, coaching a season. But this, to me, was the year the Rams became a Los Angeles team because of what was happening in Thousand Oaks with the shooting, what was going on with the fires, and the way that the Rams responded and the way that the community responded to the Rams, the way that the Rams were part of the community, everything that was going on. How difficult was that for you with the Mexico game? And then, obviously, it was going on with the field, and you were out in Colorado to get ready for the altitude. You came back, and you had that game on a Monday night here anyway.
I'll tell you what, Rich, if anything, it gave you a perspective, because I know, I'm guilty of. You get so caught up in your own little world of football, and then you realize when some of these things occur that affect a lot of the people that you love and you care about, especially when it's so close to your community. And really, if anything, it gave you a greater appreciation for the caliber of men and people that we have in our building. Watching the way that our core leaders responded when you had the shootings, and you have Andrew Whitworth get up there and address the team, and those things resonate more than anything else. Watching the way that our organization and Mr. Kroenke and a lot of people were so helpful, and when the fires occurred and so many of our guys are evacuated out of their houses, you find a way to accommodate them in the hotels. And then you have the things occur where we're in Colorado Springs, you come back and you play in Kansas City when you're anticipating, or you come back, play Kansas City at home when you're anticipating playing in Mexico City. But the way that our guys just seamlessly handled it, and they used the platform that we do have to really, do something special, for things that are a lot bigger than football, was what resonated more than anything else.
I love Whitworth. He's been here. I love that guy. And
he's a special man.
Congrats on having him come back, too.
Yeah, that was big. It was, what's funny, Rich, is he knew right after that he was going to come back. I think that he wanted to wait a little bit to be sure. But even walking right off the field and talking to him, in the few days after the Super Bowl, he said, I think I would know if it was done. And he really played his best football at the end. I think there's still a passion. And the way that he pours into guys, you talk about getting a unique perspective on leadership where, behind the scenes, the way that he's individually able to affect and influence his teammates. And it doesn't necessarily always have to be from the front. And that's something that is pretty powerful to see. He just has a natural way about himself where he's so empathetic, and it's been good. He's helped me in a lot of ways that I don't even know if he realizes.
Well, you're the Los Angeles Rams head coach, Sean. So how did he? What do you mean by that? How he helped?
Just watching the way that he's led. I think just some of the things that just naturally come to mind where he's always thinking of others first. And, sometimes innately, and it's embarrassing, sometimes you're innately selfish and you got to really go out of your way to say, like, hey, this is the right way we want to do things. And you never regret doing things for other people. And Andrew's just got a natural way about that. The empathy is the best way I can describe it. He's so empathetic. He always looks at it from other people's perspective, and the ability to do that where that's just who he is. I think that resonates with people. And watching the way that he's led, has helped been a positive influence on me, where you say, man, that's real, that's authentic, that's genuine, and that's what it looks like to do it the right way.
Well,
it's been awesome.
He was one of the guys who, again, we had him on the show right after the NFC Championship game win, where he was like, okay, hold on a minute. We know that pass interference should have been called, but what about everything else beforehand? They could have beaten us after. How was it for you to be sitting there thinking, as you were getting ready for your biggest game of your life, that a lot of people thought you didn't belong there, you didn't deserve to be there?
You know what? I think that was a play, but there was a lot of things that occurred in that game that led to different outcomes, and we didn't let that affect our preparation going into the Super Bowl.
Did you use that though?
No, not really, because what we said is, hey, this is a situation that occurred, and we're not going to allow it to be any bit of a distraction as we get ready to try to go beat the Patriots. And certainly you can go back and look at it, and it helped our team in terms of the momentum at that point. Whether that directly affected exactly what the outcome was, like Andrew said, there was a lot of plays that occurred afterwards, but I don't think anybody would shy away from the fact that saying, yeah, there was contact before all those things, but for us, we didn't allow it to be a distraction, and it wasn't something that bothered us at all.
What about you and your role in getting replay changed? Were you at the forefront of that too, or you were just listening to everything coming in at the owners' meeting a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, it was great. I think the biggest thing, Rich, is you want to see the game not miss plays like that. I don't think there was any coach that sat in that room, any owner, general manager, that didn't agree that, the egregious, the clear and obvious, however you want to define what that play was. We've got the technology, we've got the people that we can avoid missing those types of things. And I think this is a clear-cut step in the right direction to avoid those types of things. I'll be interested to see how it is totally implemented specific to some of the new changes, but absolutely, you want to see the plays that are clear and obvious, officiated the right way. And even though that play did help us, and that was one of the main sticking points because it occurred in an NFC Championship game, I thought Jason Garrett said it best when he said, you got 4 teams playing at the end, two great teams in the New Orleans Saints and the LA Rams. It was a great back and forth game, and really the only thing that you're talking about is that play. And there's too many good things that our game has to offer to let that be kind of the headline when we can, correct some of those things.
But it does put it in your lap a little bit here, Sean McVay, Rams head coach, because look, you don't have the greatest seat in the house. I mean, you're right there on the sideline.
Absolutely.
You got a lot going on, obviously, since you're also mindful of what's happening on the offensive side of the ball. Something could happen completely on the other side of the field.
Sure.
How are you going to throw a challenge flag on whether you thought DPI should have been called and it wasn't, or
no, it's a great
vice
question.
versa?
There's going to be a strategic approach that we take, especially because of the types of calls when you can actually put a flag on the field.
Yeah.
But, you got the ability to click back and forth, and we have somebody up top that's responsible for getting that communicated.
To you.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
On it. And there's that person who's on.
Yeah, I've got some guys on defense, where, I communicate with our guy Jed Fish up top, and he does a good job of, kind of putting flags on the field, some of the game management stuff specific to timeouts and all that. But then, when he's up there and, he's a little bit more directly involved with the offense, we got a couple coaches, Chris Shula, Aubrey Pleasant, Thad Bogardus, that on defensive side, when they're able to see something, if it's not Jed, he gets that communicated to me so that, we can be timely with those decisions.
And it's obvious, it's great to have a first-class play caller sitting to my right to ask this question. How do you think the offensive pass interference aspect of this is going to affect? Do you think you're going to see a little bit more fewer picks, stuff like that? I mean, is it going to be a little more vigilant on the part of a play caller here?
Absolutely. And I think the thing that you got to make a decision on is, that, all right, you get really 2 challenges and then a third if you end up getting those first 2 right. And how specific do you want to be with what determines whether you would challenge something in the first half or not? Because some of those explosive screens or those pick type plays like you talked about, where if it occurs past a yard, in the line of scrimmage and it, ends up being a huge play, you might see guys put the flag on the field and take back some of those explosives that you see. So it's going to be interesting, and that's something that we've talked about as a staff already. And as we get closer to the season, oh, absolutely. Because I think there's got to be, you've got to have a specific approach. And, there's a feel element to it without a doubt based on the flow of the game. But how much you want to put those on or what types of plays would determine whether you use that in the first half as opposed to later on in the game.
That's huge.
Is a big part of, the approach that, we got to decide how we want to do it.
Because if is there like a yardage chunk that you're going to say over, it's got to be over at least 15, 20 yards for me to use a challenge flag on a pass interference.
I would think it's got to be kind of an explosive play or a scoring type play in those first half, situations where, and even you look at it, okay, if it's a third down and short or, and ends up keeping a drive on the field and what type of game is it? 1 possession game, 2 possession? It's just like anything else. There's so many elements to it, with the way that the game's playing out, but it's got to be a sequential specific approach you want to take. And those are things that we've started discussing already for sure.
Sean McVay here on the Rich Eisen Show, head coach of the defending NFC champion Los Angeles Rams. All right, a couple of questions about your playoff run that are burning questions.
Burning.
Coast to coast. Todd Gurley.
Yep.
Was that kid hurt during the playoffs?
No, he was obviously banged up at the end of the year, you know, and I think to his credit, he did everything to get himself ready to go. Had a great game against Dallas in the playoffs where you see the explosiveness for the 35-yard touchdown run. The New Orleans game really was more of a result of how the game played out, kind of the flow of the game. We weren't able to really get the run game going much and didn't start out great and couldn't have been more impressed with what a stud and what a pro he was in the way that he handled that. And then in the Super Bowl, he made some big-time runs. Really, when you look at the way that second half started, Rich, he made a couple big-time runs, pops a wide zone that he levels it off, and then he breaks one out on the left sideline where Chung ended up hurting his arm. There's a couple plays here and there where it's 3-3 in the fourth quarter. He breaks a run that ends up getting called back on holding that you just never know. But really offensively as a whole, because Todd has been so successful and done such a great job, people have a tendency to think something was wrong. Really it was more of, I didn't really give ourselves a chance to get anything going. So our offense didn't produce. It wasn't really Todd, and the opportunities were so limited. And, that's where I've got to do a better job of putting our players in situations to make those plays.
Because this could be coming from a fantasy football lens of the world. It's just he was so integral, it just seemed he touched the ball way much more in the first 13, 14 weeks, and I know he got hurt towards the end of the year. And in the playoffs, he's on a bike. He's standing there with his helmet underneath his arm. It was just strange.
It was, and it was a weird deal where, he's so tough. He's pushing through different things.
Is he trying to get through? Is he in your ear or something?
No. Todd is a pro's pro, and really he is such a mentally and physically tough guy that he would never be like that at all. But it was unique because CJ comes in, did such a good job those last couple weeks.
He did. He was phenomenal.
And really, it's okay. How can we find a way to make sure that we're smartly putting together game plans and utilizing the guys? Because he did miss those last couple games, and in an ideal scenario, it plays out like Dallas. But you can expect Todd to be the focal point of our offense again as we move forward. He's feeling good. He's in a good place. I just think the natural ebbs and flows when you play 19 games, and I know he missed a couple with the amount of work that he got, it just worked out that way at the end of the year. But he got a very similar workload in 17, and, the anticipation for us is he's in a good place, he's feeling good, and he's going to continue to be a central part of our offense, going into the 19 season, and I don't see that changing.
Okay, is there a possibility you put him on a little bit more of a limit in the first 12 weeks of the season?
I wouldn't say that. I think we've just got to do a good job of monitoring how he's feeling throughout the season. And again, it's football, and things can occur in a game that make you maybe wake up more sore than you were before. But he's always been so good about being able to communicate to us. And I think what you really saw was a Warrior pushing through the Philadelphia game, and then that led to him missing a couple games. He's the only one that can tell you exactly how he was feeling, but I know the way that guy goes about his business, and I have all the confidence in the world that he's going to do a great job, physically, mentally, getting himself ready to go so that he's peaking at the right time when our first game opens up.
And then the other question about your postseason run, other than the final score of the Super Bowl, if you could wave a wand and change something, either your approach, your style, or anything coming into that game, during that game, what would it be, Sean McVay?
Yeah, it's a good question, Rich. I think the biggest thing is just making sure that, you're giving players the clarity that they need to have to go execute at a high level. If the game plays out maybe a little bit different than what you anticipated, that the players, have an all-purpose menu, some different things where they know exactly what the intent of your calls are as a play caller. I thought our guys were ready to go, and I think really, you give New England credit. They did a great job. And
what did they do?
You know what they did? They did a good job setting edges in the run game. They played good coverage top down, and unfortunately, we weren't able to really make them pay. And a large part of that is a result of some of the plays I was calling. And that's where you say to yourself, okay, if you get some of these opportunities again, how can you create the ownership and the clarity for Jared and the rest of our players that when you do some of these things or when you call some of these plays, they know based on whatever look the defense presents, there's a confidence and there's a decisiveness that you enable them to be able to operate with. So it's like anything else. I think we did a great job as a staff and our players learning from when we lost to Atlanta, and we're going to certainly do the same thing. And really, whether you win or lose, our approach remains consistent where we always use those as learning opportunities. And I couldn't be more excited about getting going with our guys on Monday.
I bet. And in terms of that, how's Cooper Kupp?
He's doing good. We're going to be smart and intentional about his approach. He's a guy that is going to do everything and that much more. One of the more conscientious players I've ever been around. But he's attacking his rehab exactly like I think we would all expect him to do that. The goal is making sure that he's ready to go. And, it's the one thing to return to, competition. It's another thing to return to that types of performance level that we expect for him. And our goal is to get him to return to performance where he's playing at a high level week one.
Week one. So you think he can make it back?
Absolutely.
For the
that's the goal. And I think, we're taking it a day at a time. That's still a long ways away. But
right.
That one day at a time approach and just taking those little steps, I think is going to put him in a position to be the Cooper Kupp that we love, and we certainly missed when we didn't have him.
I know. He was a big loss.
Yeah.
He was. Obviously, the other guys that you have are talented, but he just does he's so smooth. He knows exactly where to go. His hands are phenomenal. He's really, really good.
You said it best. He is, and he's got a great feel for the game. I think the rapport that he and Jared have is really valuable, and it's something where, you gain such an appreciation and that much more when you don't have him. But like you said, I thought a lot of guys got some opportunities that they wouldn't have had he been there, and I thought they matured, and they're going to be big parts of what we do as we move forward. Yeah. So it's exciting for us.
A few minutes left here with Sean McVay. What is the area of improvement you think Jared Goff needs to make? You're his coach. You're in his ear.
Sure.
I mean, you're obviously attached at the hip. What is it? Experience? Is it just that sort of fire where he just feels it and owns it, like running for that first down to that big
against
first
Dallas,
down that he did against
Dallas.
That wrapped it up.
Yeah.
I mean, that moment where Goff is the man.
Yeah.
Does he need that sort of thing?
No, I think he's already the man. I think he's had a lot of moments. His player, his teammates believe in him. His coaches believe in him. And, I think it's just continuing to do what you do at a higher level. It's, can I continue to make great decisions? Can I throw with accuracy and anticipation? And I think the thing that was great about him, really from the first year we were together to last year, the ownership. We talk about the quarterback being an extension of the coaching staff, Rich, and I think he did that. And I think it's, let's take the next step this year where we've got, an inventory of defensive structures and games that you've played now. Put that in the memory bank so that when you see these similar types of looks, you say, hey, I've been here before. I know what types of play calls to expect from Sean, where we're really attached at the hip, like you mentioned. So it's really just taking the next steps, in terms of just the maturity and gaining that experience. And that goes the same thing for me as well. And that's what's so unique about, the relationship that Jared and I have is we're going through a lot of the maturity, if you will, and kind of the growing pains. But we sure have had a lot of good times over these first couple years and expect to have many more if we approach it the right way.
Okay. And you added Weddle and Clay Matthews, people who obviously Southern California fans know very well, as if you needed better hair. I mean, with you and Les, I mean, those guys.
That's a solid group right there,
Solid. I mean, that's like Mount Rushmore for crying out loud.
I love it.
For hair.
Yeah, you got some good laughs over there on that
please.
one.
Well, I mean, we got, that shot of you guys right there. You got, there's you on the right, Les on the left, and Weddle in the center right there.
Who do you think, what would you say, 1, 2, and 3? If you got Rate him.
Do we start bench cut? I mean, do a start bench cut? If I got to start one, I got to bench one, I got to cut one. Okay.
I like it.
Put that up there one more time. Let me see one more time here. If I got to, do you got the? Go ahead. Hit the drop right here. I had no idea Sean McVay was going to put me in this position.
Start. Bench. Sit down and be quiet. Or cut. Get out.
All right. Best hair. Is that what you're saying? Do I take? And it's the beard too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I gotta. All right, I'm going to start you, Sean. I mean, in terms of the hair and beard, okay,
I like
combination. Plus, you're here, so I'm going to start you, Sean. I'm going to bench less. I'm going to bench less. I mean, less needs hair. Are you kidding me? And I'm just saying, I'm not a Travis Bickle Mohawk guy. What can I tell you? I don't know if I could ever pull that off, but. Weddle, I'm going to just cut Weddle. But you can have him. I'm going to cut him so you can start him.
That's good. We'll start Weddle. I know this. We'll start Weddle.
I'm sure you are.
Absolutely.
That guy's a gamer, huh?
He's a stud. He's one of those guys. We practiced against the Ravens last year. And, I think you can get a different perspective when you can actually be on the field behind the action or on the grass as opposed to on the sideline. But he's always a guy that has had such an ownership of the defense, the communication. You can see this guy's got an understanding of what offenses are looking at, how he can throw them off. And, we've had a couple coaches. Joe Barry's been with him, speaks the world of him, and I think his production speaks for itself. But then when you spend a little bit of time with him, you talk about a guy that loves football, is very much in alignment with some of the things that we try to, preach on a daily basis with our culture and what we stand for. And, I think really, he's going to be a huge addition to us. And selfishly, guys like him make you a better coach because they keep you accountable with the questions they have and the experience because of the way that he approaches the game.
Well, a few more minutes left here with Sean McVay. How do you, what goes through your mind when you hear everybody wants one of you? Everybody's trying to hire a coach that's you.
Yeah.
They got to get this guy that's you. They want one of you.
Yeah.
What do you think of when
what
you hear
goes
this?
through my mind is, it's flattering and humbling, Rich, but it's a result of the success we've had as a team. And, it's just like, but you know what, though? It is true, though. Like, we got great coaches on our staff. We got good players, so much in alignment with Les and his group. And, it's a great reflection of our organization and what we've done. And I think, that's the biggest thing. And to see guys that we've worked with over the last couple of years get opportunities with Matt and with Zach Taylor, they're deserving of it because of what they've done on their own merit. And when they go in and compete for jobs, people say, man, we can see this guy leading our organization. And, I'm looking forward to seeing those guys thrive.
Have you told Kingsbury that he has the job because of you too?
No,
Sean,
that's
done that?
Cliff got his deal on his own.
Okay, no, I'm sure he did. I know you had you were knocking on his door too to join your staff. I know that. So you
he was
you pantsed him according to
I got him good, didn't I?
Yeah,
that was pretty
I think
good.
you told that to Schefter that
I did.
You totally. What did you do to him again?
Well, basically, he obviously has a pre-existing relationship with Patrick Mahomes. He was out here doing some things, and Cliff was having dinner with him and a group of people, and we have a mutual friend, and I tricked him into thinking that he was tampering and that he was going to lose some picks. It was.
That's what you changed somebody's name in your phone to Roger Goodell.
I did. Our mutual friend, he. I couldn't let this go on too long. So our mutual friend, a guy named Chaz Gessner, I put his number in my phone as Roger Goodell and had him send me a text that said, hey, this is tampering. You know better than this. You guys are both, and I showed it to Kingsbury and I said, Mr. Goodell, he never texted me. I said, you better call Steve Keim right now. And his face... He was like, he said, I thought I was going to throw up. He's like, that's wrong. I mean, I couldn't let it go on for more than 30 seconds.
Yeah, you could have had it.
It was a good but a bad joke, man. Okay. I mean, he's like, you ruined dinner, man. But it was.
You know what? Just hearing you with Kingsbury and just seeing you with Les Snead and seeing you with Weddle, and I feel like that episode of Seinfeld where I'm hanging out with all the beautiful people and all the great hair right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
right.
all these hair guys. I feel like I'm in a different club. Now with Kingsbury, with last one for you, since obviously you are not in the market for a quarterback, and the conversation everybody's having right now is Kyler Murray at 5'10" and an eighth. No, we see what he sees on tape. Is he set for success in this version of the National Football League where everybody's scheming offense, trying to, again, be as successful and as dynamic as an offense as yours? Is this going to work?
Yeah. I mean, to me, the biggest thing is I think that he could play. I mean, he's a natural thrower of the football, and really I think people have a tendency to think you throw over people. You throw through passing lanes, you can change the launch point. He's so dynamic in terms of an athlete, but you watch, I mean, you just look at, he's able to play in rhythm. He can change his arm slot in terms of delivering balls short, intermediate, down the field. Whether it's Arizona or somebody, you're going to get a quarterback that can compete. And I think, everybody looks for comps. There's examples of guys that have been, shorter stature players that are elite competitors, that guys have a belief when they step in the huddle, and there's a fire and there's an understanding of the position with, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to find a way to distribute the ball like a point guard. I can make all the throws. And then you talk about the pressure that he can put on the defense with his mind, with his arm and his brain. I mean, in his legs, excuse me. I mean, it's going to be, impressive watching him do his thing, just like it was in the one year that, he wins the Heisman at Oklahoma. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes.
Well, I mean, if he goes where we think he goes, it looks like you're going to have 4 games a year with him and Russell Wilson. I mean, like Wade's going to have.
Jimmy Garoppolo's pretty good too.
I know that.
Back.
No, I know that with Garoppolo, but I'm just in terms of everybody says the reason why everybody looks at someone who's 5'10" and an eighth, and that checks a positive box at the combine is because of Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They're both potentially going to be in your division.
Yeah, you know what? It's going to be it's going to be something interesting. But even if it's not, even if he's not in the division. You look at a guy like Josh Rosen and some of the things that he did as a rookie and being able to get, under Cliff's guidance and tutelage, it's going to be a problem either way. And whether it's the Cardinals, the Seahawks, or the 49ers, we know we're going to have 6 really tough games next year and, really 10 others after that.
Well, so. I could talk to you all day, man. I appreciate you giving time before the off-season workout program.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
Thanks for coming in and say hi to your new stadium on the way back. Make sure that you save 2 good seats for those guys. The guy on the left, being the Patriot fan, he might just go to the secondary ticket market for half the time. Look at me selling you down the river with the coach.
We're supposed to be friends.
Oh, it's so much fun.
I love it.
No, but
it's not fun.
You got 2 Rams season ticket holders over there.
Oh, hey,
and then,
we appreciate the support.
And once that building's done, I might be broadcasting from there every single week.
That would be exciting.
That's what I'm being told.
That's the goal, right?
That's the goal.
Hopefully that ends up being the situation.
Yeah, we're all being the, what is it, Disney Stan or whatever they're calling it, or
my gosh, who knows what the name's gonna be?
Kronkistan, or it's amazing up there.
It's awesome.
Good to see you.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
Sean McVay, the head coach of the Los Angeles Rams.
For more of the Rich Eisen Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV for free on BR Live or download the Rich Eisen Show app.